Whether you're on the left of politics or the right of politics or somewhere else, I'd really like you to consider some of the things I've been thinking about since the budget. And it absolutely transcends and goes beyond whatever your politics are. So I'd really like you to consider this because I think something very bad is coming down the line for the UK. I've been struck on this platform at all the numbers of videos put out by farmers, and they're talking about the change in inheritance, where they used to be able to pass on their family owned farms to the next generation for a zero inheritance. That's now being targeted by Rachel Reeves, starting in about a year and a half. And it means that farmers will have to pay a tax. And a lot of farmers going, it's very unfair because they don't really make money. What they do is they have the asset, but they don't really have the money. And I've been struck by how many comments have said, oh yeah, you'll never meet a poor farmer, and really very bitter and envious going for them. But I want you to put aside your thoughts about whether or not farmers should have that tax applied to them. Because in my experience of the last 3 or 4 years, when I've been trying to explain the effect of the Conservatives' change to landlords' setups, I've been met with exactly the same wall of enviousness and bitterness. Now, let's just say, I understand if you feel bitter towards landlords, and I understand, I get it, if you don't feel that farmers should get any kind of allowance. But we need somewhere to live. We need food to eat. We need water to drink. We need energy. And I guess on a secondary level, we need to be able to travel to get around. Now, water, we know, has been privatised very, very badly. And energy, we can see a similar thing there. The prices of both of those are out of all control, and the quality has dropped massively. Property, as landlords are being shut down by the changes in rules and changes in taxation, property is increasingly shrinking to smaller numbers of bigger owners. I went to a place in Newcastle 30 years ago called Jesmond, a lovely area. I was there a couple of weeks ago. Still a lovely area, but now full of students. But you know what? Nearly all of the students' properties are owned by a very small number of landlords and then managing agents. They've got the area completely sewn up. That's what's happening in property. What do you think is happening to rents? Well, you know what's happening to rents because if you rent currently, you know how precipitous it is. You know how expensive it is becoming. Farmers are going to have to start selling off their land in order to pay the tax. 75%, according to the government's own figures, will be under the amount, and the bigger ones, they're going to start to be picked off. Exactly the same as is happening in landlords. So we've lost a lot of control over water and over energy and over in food now in the next 18 months, and property. The assault on private landlords is full underway. Why have they given landlords 18 months? I'll tell you why. Because they gave the landlords roughly 4 years over a shifting timeline with tax to start to knock out smaller landlords. They've also increasingly ramped up the pressure. They've added another 2% to stamp duty when investors buy second properties. In other words, they gave landlords time to get out, and now they're just ramping up the pressure. They're giving farmers time to get out, and then they're going to ramp up the pressure. This means that food and accommodation and energy and water, the things we cannot do without, are all being shifted, and in some cases have been shifted, to larger organisations, frequently owned by external to the UK agencies, which means we have literally no control in this country for the basics of life. Now, whatever your politics, if you're still listening to this, whatever your politics, forget whether you think the Tories are to blame or the lefties are to blame. It doesn't matter at this stage. We have a bigger problem. And the bigger problem is that the current government and the previous government and back and back and back are gradually slicing off bits that we have control of in this country in smaller groups and individuals, and they are being taken away and moved off and out. If you have a million plus farm and you cannot just cough up the inheritance to pay HMRC, inevitably you're going to be shaving off bits of the lands, hiving off parts of the overall asset, and that's constantly eating away and eroding what was this process. If we can't make and grow and develop our own food in this country, we remain more and more reliant on external people to support us. They then have control over supply, they then have control over the food. Supply and cost is what's happened to us with energy and water, and it's happening with property. I think we have a major problem happening to us now.